Hey, Steve Watanabe here. Just want to shoot a quick video just to kind of go over this post because I know there's probably going to be some questions, but also to make it a little bit easier to absorb because I find that when you speak to someone, you get a little bit more of an impact, especially on some very important parts. So let's go ahead and scroll down here. So this is kind of my guide to VA disability rating. I already have my rating. I'm actually still going through the process of getting evaluated, or excuse me, getting my rating. I've already been evaluated, but yeah. So there's a few interesting things that I have learned and I think can help you out. So use this as a guide, take it for what it is, and don't be afraid to consult with your service officer, your VSO, with any other questions. And also, let me ask you if you have done this before and somehow you got to my website. Um, if you have suggestions on what I can do to improve this for other vets, let me know and I can go ahead and update this post. So let's go ahead and get started. So the reason I'm doing this is just because friends, sometimes family, sometimes friends of friends, find out that I've done this before and they refer them to me. And so rather than doing this over and over again, I thought I'd make it a little bit easier on me, for one, but also to have an actual written document for other people to use. Kind of a blueprint, if you will, or a guide, like I put right here. Smart guy. So basically the process, the way I recall, was you need to get your information. Ideally, you'll have your information first. You'll have your medical records. You'll start to build a list of medical conditions or ailments, what have you. Forgive me if I use terminology wrong. I'm a simple guy, but then you'll reach out to your VSO. They'll probably tell you the same thing. This is what you need to do. I'm just kind of telling you ahead of time. So this might be a little bit out of order if you've already been to your VSO. Then you're going to need to write your statements. This is probably one of the most important things you need to do, is to write your statements or testimonials, whatever you want to call it. The VA, I believe they call it statements. Then you're going to give that to your VSO. They're going to submit it, and I think that's when your back pay starts. So we'll talk about back pay here in a second. Then you have to wait and get your appointments. You have to attend the appointments, and then after that, after you've done all your appointments for all the claims that you have submitted, you're just going to wait some more. But let's go ahead and cover these in a little bit more detail. So the first is you're going to get your records. You're going to get a list built. So your medical records is the first thing you want to do. If you've been to the VA, or if you're still in the military, go to whoever you need to go to get your medical records. I know for me, they were kind of scattered around, so you kind of have to make sure you go to every single place. The more information, the more records you can get from dental, from medical doctor, from your local physician, if you had one of those, or was it PA, right? Or even the medic station. If there's any documentation, you want to get every single thing that you can. Then after that, once you have collaborated everything, even at the same time, you're going to build a list. Okay, and this list is every single thing that went wrong and has affected you during your time in service. So I don't know what MOS you were, or what your job identifier was, but basically there were things that happened that caused you to go to the aid station that are affecting you now. It could have been, you could have been infantry, hearing loss, tinnitus, like ringing in the ears, right? PTSD, head injuries, broken bones, bad sprains, infections, anything from basic training or boot camp, whatever you want to call it, all the way up till your exit date. Anything that happened in there, you want to make sure you have, but also anything that has been happening. So PTSD can be kind of late onset, right? So it's still, you're still being affected because of something that happened in service. So it's service connected, right? Now, the first VSO that I went to, she was pretty awesome. She's tinnitus, and then she talked about exposures. So if you were in a certain part of Iraq or whatever, there's certain types of chemicals and things that you were exposed to that she would make mention of. You're going to have to kind of, we'll talk about the VSOs in a little bit, but just know it's more than just what's at face value. It's more than just the PTSD. It's more than just, if you have like a bad scar, right? Like if something happened, you were in a firefight, cut yourself, you got a bad scar, make sure you make note of it, because scars is actually part of part of an evaluation. So little things too, very, very little things, like, I don't know, you broke your finger or something, right? Anything, from the smallest to the biggest, because what you're going to do eventually is you're going to evaluate all this stuff and see what you should and shouldn't put on there. So build a list. Now, I kind of created a template for you. If you click on that little green button right there, you can make a copy of this. This is on a Google Doc. If you don't have Google Docs, you can create an Excel spreadsheet, or if you just want to be old-fashioned, pen and paper will work too. But I have the issue, so if you want to put in a claim for, PTSD, if you have bad PTSD, put the issue. If it's a scar, if you have lymphoma, depending on what generation you are, I don't know if, like my grandfather was Bikini Islands, World War II, and he had, they believe that's how he got his cancer, so that's service related. So that's why we have the issue here. The section, I'll be showing you how to find this. This is very important. Because it's not only a reference, but it's also something you're going to be using inside your statements and testimonials. Not necessarily the actual section, but some of the terminology. Diagnostic code, this is just something extra. It's not 100% necessary, but it's more for your information and your VSO's information if they need to see that and if they find value in it. Examples. So this is more of your personal input right here. Estimated rating. I'll show you how to find that too when we do this a little bit later. But examples, give me a second. These are just, basically elaborating on very briefly, like some of the biggest things that stick out in your mind, right, about those issues. So PTSD, it could be, you have nightmares, anger, shortness of temper, irritability, stuff like that. Everything from the very, very small to the very, very big. Like if you have thoughts of suicide for PTSD, put that in there. Anything and everything. You have to be, it's very important that you are completely transparent and very, very, very detailed, because the time and energy you put into it now will reflect the rating that you get later. And you, trust me, because I've done this before, you do not want to have to go back and resubmit and do this all. It's a pain in the butt. So be as very detailed as you can. So you can use this sheet just as a reference, but yeah, that's pretty much it. So you can make a copy. All you have to do is just go to File, make a copy right here. It'll put it into your folder, and then you can go ahead and delete these and start, boom, busting out your list and stuff. You can just hit delete and delete all this stuff. Okay, so the 38 CFR, I don't know what CFR stands for, I didn't look it up, but basically this is kind of the guidelines that the VA uses for rating your disability. This subpart B, so if we go to subpart B, you're going to need to read this entire thing. Regardless if you're World War II or Korea or Vietnam, Gulf, Afghanistan, Iraq, doesn't matter what conflict or what you were doing. You need to read this entire thing, because what's going to happen is you're going to have this template open, right? And you're going to be reading this 39 CFR. You're going to go, okay, let's open up functional loss. Read this, understand it. You're going to go through history of injury. You're going to read this short paragraph, right? And you're going to go down through each one of these, boom, 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 every single one, okay? Most of these are really, really short little paragraphs, right? But it shouldn't take you more than, 40 minutes, an hour most, right? Maybe an hour. But as you're going through this, you're going to come up with little ideas and maybe, oh yeah, like the aha moments, right? It's like, I totally forgot about this, right? It's like I sprained my ankle really bad. I couldn't walk for, 2 weeks. It was like so bad. My ankle got so big. And that's the type of stuff you need to put down. You might not get, not get approved for it. They might decline it, but that's perfectly fine. We're kind of playing the odds here too. So we're just trying to put every single thing we can because, yeah. So just anything and everything. Again, I can't stress that enough. Anything and everything you can think of, put it in here. Read the entire 38 CFR, section B, or excuse me, subpart B. You don't need to go back or anything. Just read this. All of these. Open it and read it. Open it, read it. Open it, read it. Now, once you're done with that, and once you have kind of had those aha moments, and you've continued to build out this list. Let's see what's next. Here we go. Get an idea. Yes. Okay. This next section, the schedule for ratings. This is all the stuff that's already in the 38 CFR. I just put this here for your reference because it's so much easier just to look at the schedule for ratings. So if we do PTSD, I actually added to that. So this is the section 4.130, right? Mental disorders. And so if we go to, let me see here, post-traumatic stress disorder. So this is kind of the code, right, that you'll see right here. 9411, 9411. So that's where I got the code from. And I'm just using this as a reference, just in case the VSO wants to have that as a reference. Majority of them probably don't even use this. The ones that I've encountered don't even reference this. But we're referencing this because it's by the book. And what's going to happen is as we're writing our statements and we go by the book and we reflect what is inside the book, the person that's going to be looking at your case file is going to say, well, does it match the book? Oh, okay, it matches, your description matches what's, we're going by the book. And once those two connections are made, the better chance you are to get rated at that rating that, you're requesting. So I would go through each one of these one more time because once you pop this open, right, post-traumatic stress, let's scroll down. So this is what we're looking at right here. This is the main part, and every single one of these has, I believe, has this rating scale. If you were to be awarded 100%, this, for PTSD, this is what you would need to have. This is basically what would need to match you. This is what would need to match the statement that you make. So total occupational and social impairment due to such symptoms as gross impairment in thought processes or communication. So as you're reading these, think of examples in your mind. Has this applied to me at all? Has there ever been an example where I've had a really bad impairment in my thought processes or communication, where I couldn't function, something like that? And if another good idea is if you have a loved one or someone who's with you usually, and you go through these, they'll tell you, especially with PTSD, because we're looking at stuff through narrow vision. They can see it from the outside. So that's a really big one that I forgot to put in, but that's going to help it a lot. Have a loved one or someone who's around you a lot help you with this, because they could say, you know what, you do this a lot. My wife helps me out with this. I completely forgot about that. Grossly inappropriate behavior, right? Danger of hurting yourself or others, inability to perform. So as you're reading this, you're just trying to think of any examples that this applies. And if you can think of examples, that is what you need to put down in here. Because as you go down this list, you're going to start from rating 100 and down. You're going to go through one by one and say, okay, does this apply to me? Do I have any examples of this? Yes or no? If yes, that's the example you're going to put. Because as you build this up, your examples, that's what you're going to put in your statement. Okay, so we're just kind of following the book and basically saying, I have, an inability to perform during certain activities like this, and this. So it's kind of like we're referencing certain sections to basically show them that this is relevant to you. Hopefully that makes sense. Then you're going to keep going down, and as you go down, usually the impairments or the disorder or whatever is going on is a little bit less important, but that's perfectly fine. As long as you go through every single one of these and ask yourself those questions. Hey, does this apply to me? Has there ever been an example where this was me? You're going to say, more than likely, you're going to say, oh, yeah, I guess so. I'm more messed up than I thought, right? But that's the whole point of this, is basically to say, since your service, what has happened, and just write it down. All you're going to do is just give them examples of what it was. Okay, so let's keep going. And again, this is just PTSD. This is just one. All right, so you're going to spend some time on this. And I promise you, the more time investment you spend on this, the more detailed your notes are, the better your claim's going to turn out. And yeah, I'd love to hear some success stories if this helps you. So make sure to go, even if it does not apply to you, click on it and go through it step by step. Because I can almost guarantee you that you're going to find something and there's going to be that aha moment. Because there's a difference between going through the 38 CFR entirely, like I told you to before, because you're going to pass all this stuff. But you're not going to ask your questions during that first round, right? You're not going to ask yourself, okay, was there anything that ever happened to my pelvis? Oh, no. The vertebrae. Oh, yeah, my back issue. I totally forgot my back issue. I threw my back out, right? So it's things like that. These are supposed to be little sparks to help you remember those things. And so, again, just build that list. I think I kind of harped on that a lot. But this is huge, okay? And I don't want you to miss this. I don't want you to just half-ass this. That's why I keep coming back to it, because this part is just so huge. Okay, let's see here. Secure a VSO. Now, this is something I didn't know. When I was first starting out, they're like, I'm at the VA, and they're like, oh yeah, go to the VSO. He'll help you out. And I go there, and I forgot, it's the DVA. I think that's what it was, the DVA. So it's another organization that's certified VSO organization to help vets with their claims and medical and all kinds of other stuff. But the guy that I went to was just claims. And so I didn't know that I could go see other people. And you can, right? So you can even do this yourself, but I don't recommend it, okay? See someone who's professional, has done this before, and can help you out with it, especially if they have experience. And so when you are looking for a VSO, you need to do some research. I think I put a link right here. You can run a search. Log into your e-benefits, and you can run a search for VSOs. But you can also call your VA. You can call other major veteran organizations. You can call the Vet Center. You can call the Veteran of Foreign Wars. Even my local, like a really small, it's a local veterans meetup. They have actual VSO there. So they're all over the place. You just need to pick up the phone, make some calls. And I'm serious. Some are better than others. Just like with anything. Some people want to help you out. God bless them. But some are just better than others. And I want you to make sure you find a really good one for you. Because most of them do it for free. So, you can ask them, different questions like, well, how long have you been doing this? How many claims have you processed? I've been in, I was in Iraq. Have you helped a lot of people in Iraq with claims that were just kind of off the wall? What other things don't I know about, right? Don't be afraid to ask questions. And I would write those questions out ahead of time. And I would go and just make a list. You can just open up another Excel spreadsheet and say, okay, I really like this guy. He's really easy to talk to. He's worked with vets in Iraq. He's actually mentioned some potential claims that I didn't even know existed, like, radiation exposure to, or, stuff like that, right? Because there's all different types of things that you may have been exposed to in certain areas that you were stationed that you just didn't know. And the VA wants to compensate you for that. So having a VSO that knows those types of things is a huge asset. So that's why I say to, especially if you're in a metropolitan area, call around. pick up the phone, call around. Again, one thing I wish I would have done. I actually got that kind of the second time around. Paid VSO. So, depending on how good they are, these guys are usually booked solid. Because they're only one person, and they're through referrals, through referrals, through referrals. It's all referral marketing for them, because when working with someone that's paid, and I've worked with one, I don't know about every single one. Don't know that. Well, I don't know more than one, but you kind of get what you pay for, right? So they are more of a premium, but they do kind of. This one person was working for the VA doing claims, so he knew what to look for. He knew the codes. He knew all that stuff. I know attorneys also. Some attorneys, when I was doing some research, there were some attorneys that actually do that too. So they're a paid service. I would just make sure you get referrals from other people, and call them and ask them the same types of questions. Okay, so hopefully that's clear on actually getting a VSO. You can take a look here. Here's just some sample questions, right? But again, try to expand and ask more questions. If you have other suggestions for questions that we think we should be asking, put in a comment down below on this page, and I'll make sure to add it to this thread or this guide. Okay, this is another huge part, right? Remember how we are gathering all the information. We were gathering all of the information off the 38 CFR, and we painstakingly went through, we were very patient though, right? Went through things line by line, asking questions. Hey, does this apply to me? Yes, no. Was there anything that ever happened with my back, with my knees, with blah, 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 blah? That was ever, some of them might not apply, but we've been taking really good notes. And those notes are going to be the foundation for our statements, okay? The form looks like this, right? The first time around, I was handed this form. Oh yeah, just write a little bit about, what happened. That was basically what I was told. Poor advice, right? I'm going to show you a really good testimonial that I actually use as a framework. So this is just a statement that's a sample down below, but we'll get to that here in a second. You're going to get this paper. All you need to do is just sign it, date it, whatever the VSO tells you to. But you're going to see, I think you put like see addendum or something like that. And the sample testimonials that are attached, those are going to be the real testimonials, right? So they're going to be attached to this form. And your VSO will help you out with that. But let's go ahead and scroll down here. Let me see here. Okay. So when it comes to the testimonial, it's more than just writing a little bit about what happened. Because chances are you're going to have, depending on your service, you might just want to do a claim for PTSD, or by the time you go through all the checklist for the 38 CFR and you go through all those documents, you might have 15 things that, like, hey, maybe I should put a claim on all 15. Hey, if it's there, do it. It's going to take time, but it's worth it. This is the framework that you're going to use for each one, and you have to write a testimonial or a statement for every single claim that you have. So if you go through and your list has 15 items, you have 15 items, you're going to have to write 15 statements, okay? Now, don't be intimidated by that, because you have to write. To be honest, because it's all about you and you're just remembering things, it's gonna kind of fill itself out. And that's what I found, is that I was able to just kind of remember everything. It's like, holy smokes, I totally forgot about this. And it's like you're telling a story. But there's some very important things you need to have. When did it start, right? Basically, you be very detailed. On or about 13 July. This guy's very specific, right? You might just have the month. That's perfectly fine. I injured my right knee at the Air Force Base, blah, 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 gymnasium. So take a look at this. You can get an idea of what we're making reference to. They just need to know when exactly, or when roundabout it started, right? And if you have medical records to accompany it, you can make reference to that. I made sure to go to the doc. We have medical records for it, blah, 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 blah. So then you have what happened since, right? Since then, this is how that injury or medical issue has affected me, how it's affected not only me but my family. So those of you doing PTSD, if or even any medical thing that's related, if it affects people around you, you need to put that too. This guy talks about divorce, talks about fighting, talks about a lot of those types of things. So keep that in mind, that those reasons, those third party those third parties that are affected because of your medical ailment or medical issue, needs to be put in here, because that's also a justification for it's basically building your case for this these claims. So what happened since, and then what functional loss do you have now? You got bad knees. Now you walk with a limp. The limp actually started to hurt your back, and your back's been hurting. You've been going to the chiropractor, been taking pain meds. You'd have to, sometimes take off work because it just hurts too bad. Stuff like that. They need to know how it's affecting your life now, right? Is your pain so bad that you just cry? Literally, if you cry at night, you put that down, because that is something that shows how bad it is affecting you and your life since your service. So again, we need to be very, very detailed, and don't be embarrassed about this part, because honestly, the more juicy it is, the more strength your claim's going to have. Again, don't lie, don't stretch the truth. Just be very honest, because the VA has this opportunity for us to basically get these claims. They want to give it to you, so just be truthful, and don't stretch the truth. Don't take advantage of the system like that, because to be honest, for the majority, you can easily get different ratings for a lot of different stuff, especially tinnitus. If you ever get ringing in your ears, that's another. I'm sorry, I'm going off kind of on a sidetrack. If you ever get ringing in your ears, like I get all the time, it's called tinnitus, and it's an automatic 10%, right? And you can take a look at that in one of these schedules, right, under hearing or ear, I believe. Okay, so this is, you see how long this sample is? This guy basically probably was just starting to type. It's like, oh yeah, I gotta put this, right? Because there's certain dates and whatever. Medications. If you're taking medications, again, be specific. What kind of medication is it? Is it ibuprofen? Is it ibuprofen 800 milligrams, right? Because they need to know the level of pain that you're having for different things. Let me see here. Okay, so that was the statements or testimonial section. Make sure you have those three components, and be very detailed for every single one. If you have 15 or 20 or however many claims, just be as detailed as you can. If it takes you a month to get all this together, so be it. But just make sure you are very, very thorough. That's very important. Submitting the claims, the easy part. This is going to take a little while. Honestly, writing the testimonials or the statements, it's going to take a while. Collaborating and reading the information, it's going to take a little bit. It's not too much time. But after all that is done, all you have to really do, give it to your VSO and they'll submit it, right? Then you're gonna wait a little bit. You're gonna wait a little bit, and you're gonna get letters in the mail, basically saying, "Hey, your claim for PTSD. This is an appointment for a psych eval or just a psych appointment." They're not there to shrink your head. They're not there to, talk about your. They're basically there just to verify that you do have PTSD genuinely, and so that they're going to do that for every single. Well, maybe not every single one, but for a lot of your claims, they will say, "We need to, get an appointment for, I don't know, your knees or your shoulders if it's bad. You need to do X-rays. You need to do MRI." And then see the doctor, and so he can evaluate it, and then basically that's it. They don't make a determination then, but the doctors, what they'll do, or the specialists, whoever it is, they'll report back to the VA and basically say, based on this initial interview, evaluation, whatever they want to call it, we believe that they should be rated at this percentage. And again, they're gonna they're gonna be using some of the or excuse me, I don't think they're going to rate you. They're going to basically say, this is what I found and this is my recommendation, right? So I'm not exactly sure how all that back end works, but one of the doctors basically said, oh no, this certainly is going to be rated fairly high. So they kind of hinted, but I don't know exactly how it works. But make sure, don't miss those appointments. Don't miss those appointments. Some people that have missed those appointments were never able to do it again. They'd have to they had to do everything all over again. And even then, it was hard to get those appointments. Now, that being said, if you do have a medical emergency and miss those appointments because of that, get on the phone with them right away and let them know. The paperwork and the email is going to tell you what the appointment is, and also the emergency. You have to, I don't think you have to give them like a notice 24 hours or something. But if you miss it, call the number and let them know and say, it was a medical emergency because of X, Y, Z. I need to reschedule. Sometimes that works. I've actually had that happen one time for me personally, and that actually worked. So just so you're aware, don't miss those appointments. It's more of a pain in the ass than it's worth. Okay, let me see here. Something else makes you... Oh, another thing. I highlighted this in red because it is such a big issue. Especially if you're a guy. And I did this the first time around, and I didn't realize it until I talked to people about it. But I don't want to get into too much into what I'm rated for, but let's just say, let's use PTSD as an example. So a lot of vets coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan have really bad PTSD. And you ask them about it, it's like, oh yeah, I just kind of have, bad dreams every once in a while, whatever, But the reality is, they might be swinging in the middle of the night, getting up, punching the wall, falling on the floor, just waking up startled, stuff like that, and they just kind of downplay it, right? And it's like, you go to the appointment, so what kind of symptoms have you had? Have you had any sleeplessness? Oh yeah, sometimes it's hard to sleep. And that's it. Don't do that. You cannot do that. You need to be just as detailed in the interview as you are with your statements that you made. You need to give the stories, because to be honest, the stories that you have that are associated with your medical conditions or medical issues are what is going to give the evaluators an idea of, oh, okay, well, this matches with what they said, but it also makes me think about this, and they can do their professional thing, whatever it is. But they need to have those details to make a solid decision on what to report to the VA. And so do not downplay whatever your issues are. Have very specific information on those issues. And what you have to do before your appointment, you're going to take your claim that you made, because you have a copy of it. You're going to take that claim that you wrote out, be it 2-3 pages, whatever. Let's say it's PTSD. You're going to take that 2-3 page PTSD claim, and you're going to go back through it and say, okay, I need to make sure I talk about, because this is really big, I need to talk about this. I need to talk about my anger spells. I need to talk about that hole in the wall that I punched for no reason. I need to talk, or seemingly no reason, right? I need to talk about blah, 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 blah. And just go down your thing. And if anything else comes to mind, write it down. And so you use this as a baseline of what to do and what to talk about during your appointment. So for PTSD, because it relates to so many, you need to tell them, like, I have a hard time remembering. I was in a lot of blasts or something like that. I have a hard time remembering, so I brought a list of things I have to talk about because they're very important. And my wife and my family, my mom says These are important because it's been affecting her as well, or them as well, you know. And so let them know. Let them know who it's affecting and that you have a piece of information that you need to communicate. Because I guarantee if you go in unprepared without a list, you're going to forget half the stuff, half the important stuff too, and it's going to affect your claim. And so make sure to read every single thing down. Now, I will say this. Sometimes in certain ones, it could be really tough. And if you feel like crying, let it out. Because sometimes they need to see that that's how bad it gets. Especially if that's how it is, right? So, yeah. What else? Just make sure you convey the truth and that the level of which you communicate it matches to what the reality is. Okay, and I think that's, hopefully that kind of pushed the point across for those appointments, because it's really important for the appointments. Okay, what else? PTSD, then there's medical issues too. A lot of that stuff is for medical. A lot of that stuff can be just pulled from your records. Oh, for medical, same exact thing. You know, so if it's like a medical issue, like a torn meniscus or broken bones or something, and it's been affecting you still, talk about it. I have trouble going upstairs. I have trouble sitting down. I have trouble kneeling. Every time I go to the dog park and I try to kneel down, like for me, my right knee, for some reason, it just gets inflamed. And so you can start to just talk about all those other stories. So it doesn't matter what it is, have a list ready to go. If you have multiple appointments, that's what they try to do. They try to have you back to back, maybe a couple hour difference, but have multiple appointments in the same locations or around the same locations. Make sure you have the scripts or the bullet points of what to talk about, and make sure to communicate that to them, because communication is going to be your best friend for any of these appointments. Okay. The last thing to do is wait. And for me, so I've refiled a claim, and I've had my first claim. The first claim took about 8 to 10 months, something like that. The second one took, for half of it took 4 months, I was surprised. 5 months. That's still fast. I was surprised. For the VA, that's fast. And I actually heard that they're starting to speed it up a little bit, kind of optimizing their processes, but I still have one that's open. And one of the things that I didn't realize until recently was when you log into eBenefits, they kind of tell you where you're at and where the hang-ups are. So had to reach out to the VSO and basically say, hey, there's a hang-up here. Can you take care of it? Can you see what's going on? Because it's been really long. And, it is what it is most of the time. But sometimes it might just be a piece of paperwork that was never forwarded. And by making that phone call, pushes it forward. You just save yourself months. Because Lord knows they're not gonna do that right away. They're gonna take a month before they request that information. So, go ahead and check on it in eBenefits and see where the status is, what the status is, and that's one part that's a little weak on. I'll have to double check that, but if I learn anything, I'll make sure to post another video or something. But that's pretty much it. Let me go ahead and pause the video. I just want to make sure I covered everything. I know I've been talking for a while, but I just want to make sure I've covered everything and you have the most information available and are prepared to get started. Just give me 1 second. Okay, sorry, I'm just going through my emails. There was one thing for like physical medication or medical appointments. So when you have an appointment, and let's say it's your knee, right? You have a bad knee or something. They're going to bend it, whatever. So it could be arm, doesn't matter what joint. When they're doing a range of motion test, right? There's no need to be a man or be a woman, whatever, about it. If they're moving your arm, the very first sign of pain, you're like, okay, a little pain right there, and it's getting bigger. Okay, that's really, so again, communicate. So if they're moving, that's where the pain starts right there. They need to know the range of motion, because for like knees, ankles, joints, anything like that, during range of motion tests, they need to know, because that's also how they base their ratings. Again, be honest, but uh, once you feel the pain, let them know. Even if it's just like a 1 out of 10, just say, okay, this is like a 1 out of 10, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 9, 9. Stop, 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 stop. So it's like you need to make sure that you know at the very first sign of pain, you let them know. And then if you can't go any further, stop. This hurts too much. Don't go any further. They need to know that, right? Again, it kind of goes back to that thing where, people just are myself. You just at first are like, I could put up with it. I just won't say anything, whatever. No, be very communicative. I need to get learned, right? Yeah, be very communicative. I hate that word. Make sure your communication's good. Yeah, keep it fourth grader, right? Okay, I'm going to pause real quick. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything for you guys. Okay, you know what? I think that pretty much covers the majority of it. I think we did pretty good as far as covering most of the topics. The only other thing, yeah, just those appointments. Make sure you're you have the really good communication, and make sure your claims, your statements, your testimonials are very detailed. And again, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Take your time with these. Be very thorough, because this is going to set you up for life potentially, right? Especially if you have really bad PTSD, or if you have a really bad injury that's just come back and it's just bothering you. And especially if, oh my goodness, my uncle, he's Vietnam, and he didn't make his claim until a few years ago. So it really does help a lot of different people. And if you're seeing this and I don't know you, but I really hope this helps you out. Thank you for your service. From brother to a sister, whatever, whoever you are. I just really appreciate everything that you've done for us in the country. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave it down at the bottom, and let me know how things go. I really want to know if this little guide has helped anybody. So if this has helped you at all, please let me know down in the comments section. If you have questions or if you have suggestions, please. If you have suggestions, let me know too, because I want to put that in here as well. Because the more information we as veterans have for this, the more we're able to take advantage of these benefits that the VA is giving us for our service, the more people we can help. So that's pretty much it. Hopefully this helps. Let me know how it helps you, hopefully, later on. Alrighty, I'll talk to you later.